Hey Dia, Eric Sermon said a transgender would never be accepted. After 8 weeks of trial, Diddy was finally sentenced in a case with a powerful impact. The artist was convicted on 2 counts related to prostitution, but acquitted of more serious charges, including sex trafficking and extortion. This verdict came as a shock, as many believed Diddy would pay for his sinful actions, but instead he was released with relative ease. However, this matter did not end there. A video clip showing Diddy out on bail after being acquitted was leaked and quickly went viral on social media platforms. The image of Diddy smugly raising his fist and walking out of the courthouse with his family carefree and unbothered enraged the public. They couldn't help but ask, after all the things he's done, why was Diddy released so easily? Did the court truly administer justice? Or was Diddy's power so great that it could turn the tide in a deadlock? Outrage reached its peak as images of Diddy laughing and chatting with his family as they left the courthouse surfaced, while his victims could only remain silent. Overview of the case and verdict. In 2025, Diddy was involved in a major scandal related to serious allegations of sex trafficking and extortion. These accusations resulted in an 8-week trial in federal court, attracting public and international media attention. The case against Diddy stemmed from a series of grave allegations that he had exploited his power and wealth to run a cross-border sex trafficking network. Victims, including women and male sex workers, testified that they were coerced into transactional sexual activities to serve the needs of Diddy and his associates. These accusations included claims that Diddy lured victims into orgies where drugs and sex were indispensable elements. Some victims also alleged that they were forced to participate in these parties under threats of violence, both physical and psychological. The investigation, which spanned several months, was the result of a comprehensive campaign by law enforcement. Federal police intervened after receiving reports from victims' former girlfriends of Diddy and witnesses who had attended the parties he hosted. Some victims, having signed detailed affidavit, described the coercive behavior of Diddy, including the uses of violence and threats to control them. Some victims agreed to enter witness protection programs, fearing significant retaliation from Diddy if they spoke out. Investigators gathered crucial evidence from Diddy's mobile phones and those of his close associates, including messages, calls, and documents exchanged with individuals in his sex trafficking network. Texts Diddy sent to victims and business partners indicated his direct involvement in organizing the parties and scheduling sexual encounters as requested. The primary victims in this case were young women whom Diddy had introduced into his network over the years. Some of these women had been in romantic relationships with him, while others were recruited through business contacts or intermediaries. One prominent victim, a model, accused Diddy of using his power and money to force her to participate in sex parties. She claimed that on one occasion she was instructed to have sex with others under the supervision of Diddy and his associates. In addition to the primary victims, the case also featured key witnesses, including a longtime friend of Diddy. This friend testified in court about Diddy's frequent organization of parties that involved other artists and celebrities. According to the witness, Diddy had repeatedly convinced and demanded that women participate in sexual encounters at these events. The witness also testified that Diddy paid participants and ensured the secrecy of these activities. Investigators also collected a series of important pieces of evidence from Diddy's mobile phones and email. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence was a series of
and
messages
no longer has a
exchanged
voice
via
who will
messaging
pursue
apps where
justice
Diddy
for her
discussed the
accusation.
logistics of arranging sexual encounters
As of the
and
taken
method
against
of paying
Diddy,
for these services.
no expansion
Audio
of the
recordings were also
investigation,
obtained from phone
no
calls
isolation
Diddy made to
orders,
victims where
no
he demanded
equipment
their
access,
participation in
no
orgies and
suspension of
threatened
attorney
them if they did not
communication.
comply.
Everything
Additionally, some
inside
documents
Solitary
found at
Block C
properties owned by
continued as
Diddy
before.
indicated that he had used
Everything
these
except
locations
the
to host
fear.
sex payment
If a
receipts,
female
shady
warden can
contracts,
vanish
and
after a
cash
single note,
transactions
thing
were linked to
except
the
the
sexual
fear.
encounters that
If a
Diddy had
female warden
orchestrated.
can vanish
Despite the
after a single
overwhelming
note,
evidence in the
ones
case,
who once
after a
worked
prolonged
overnight
trial,
in
the
that
jury
area,
acquitted Diddy of
the
the
ones who
serious
filed
charges
for
of
leave
sex
without giving a
trafficking and
reason,
extortion.
the
This
ones who
surprised
saw
and
but
angered
never
many, as
spoke.
the actions
No
Diddy
one
was
mentions
accused
the
of were
note,
extremely
but
serious
everyone
and could
knows
have had
it
a severe
appeared.
impact on the
And
lives
if what
of
it
the
says
victims.
is true,
Diddy was only
then
convicted on
punishment.
charges of
Part 3.
prostitution, which led
The
many to
person no
question the
longer in the
fairness of
system.
justice
The internal
system.
personnel
This verdict
database
became
of the
even more
Atlanta Federal
controversial when
Detention
Diddy
Center
showed no
updated
remorse
its
or
weekly
regret
roster.
after the trial.
Under the
He walked
category
out of the
Special
courtroom
Personnel
with a
Code
smug smile
Adjustment,
and even
the
raised his
name of
fist
Warden
as a sign of
TD
his
was
power.
marked as
Meanwhile,
removed
the
from
victims were
system
left
by
in silence,
administrative
unable
order.
to speak out
There was
and
no
defend their
decision number
leaked clip of
recorded,
Diddy
but
out
was
on bail.
deactivated.
After the shocking
Her
trial
personal
and
contact
controversial
information
verdict, all
disappeared
attention
from
turned
the
to
internal
Diddy, who had
network
just been
exactly
acquitted of serious
36
charges that
hours
many
after
believed
she
he
filed
deserved
her
to pay
complaint.
for. However,
The
story did not
changelog was
end there. A
executed
leaked
from the
clip showing
system's
Diddy walking
highest
out of the
access
courthouse
level
after his
server,
acquit
a
quickly
device
went viral
bearing
on
the
social
identifier
media. This video was not just a simple
DCCA1,
scene, but a
located in
major
the coordination
catalyst,
office on the
sparking
4th
among
floor of
public
the
who
Security
couldn't stop
Administration
questioning
wing.
the fairness of the legal system.
Only
The
two
leaked video
individuals
shows
possess
Diddy
the
accompanied
authority
by
to
his
perform
family
a
and legal
system-level
team,
personnel
walking out of the
removal at
courthouse
that
with a
tier,
relieved
the
expression,
head of Federal
completely
Human
unbothered. While his
Resources
supporters
and
clapped and
Detention
chattered
Center.
joyfully, Diddy raised his
No
right fist in a
confirmation
gesture of
exists
pride,
as
signaling
was
his
made.
satisfaction after
The removal
escaping
of
the most
Warden
serious
TD's
charges.
name
This
was
scene
not
only
accompanied by
reflected his
any
arrogance, but
or
also
protective
strongly affirmed Diddy's
reassignment.
power in a case
At
involving sex
11:20
crimes where
a.m., a
victims had
printed
endured
copy of the
unhealable
personnel
trauma. When
deployment
watching
chart
this
was
clip, many
generated
people
in
felt
preparation
enraged,
for the
even
new
believing
week's
that Diddy
schedule.
was mocking justice
Under the
with his
section
nonchalant
marked
demeanor and
Internal
lack of
Alert,
remorse. Could
TD's
this be
name
a sign that Diddy is not only protected by lawyers, but also demonstrates the manipulation of power where individuals with the financial and social influence can continue to live comfortably despite the harm they have caused? To others, the public outrage stemmed from several factors, the biggest being the injustice of Diddy's relatively easy release despite did all that he had done. While his victims remained silent, unable to speak out, Diddy emerged from the courthouse with joy and self-satisfaction. This raised a huge question about the fairness of the judicial system. Did he truly receive a fair trial? Or is he simply a man with enough power and money to manipulate the outcome of the case? One reason the leaked clip caused such controversy is because Diddy has a successful career and a huge influence. Not only is he a famous star, but also a successful businessman who owns major brands in the music and fashion industries. This power could cause people in society and even within the judicial system to view him in a different light. Despite facing serious criminal accusations, Diddy could still enjoy freedom and be treated leniently. Scenes like those in the clip only fuel suspicions that the legal system may have failed in its duty to protect victims and deliver justice. However, the key question is whether Diddy's release was due to the intervention of powerful forces. Could the legal system be manipulated by his wealth and influence? With such strong accusations in evidence, the fact that he was only convicted of lesser charges and granted freedom demonstrates something wrong in the justice system. Public reaction to the court's verdict in the leaked clip was an undeniable wave of outrage. Those following the case from the beginning were deeply upset when they saw Diddy leave the courthouse so easily while his victims remained voiceless. Is justice only for the powerful and wealthy while the powerless have to endure unspeakable suffering? Women's rights organizations and LGBT+ advocacy groups immediately spoke out, criticizing the lack of fairness in the verdict. Activists and those fighting for the rights of sexual assault victims argued that Diddy not only escaped his crimes but also continued to live under the protection of power and money. The victims in this case, despite their bravery in speaking out, could only remain silent. They were unprotected, uncompensated, and unable to assert their rights in a society where power and money can alter the outcomes of such serious cases. Meanwhile, online communities reacted strongly as the leaked clip quickly spread across social media platforms. Posts and comments criticizing the injustice of the case flooded newspapers, forums, and social media. Why is someone like Diddy, after everything he's done, treated this way? Has money and power protected him? Was the most common question on articles and posts. The clip, though a small detail, forced society to confront the question of fairness in handling cases related to power and money. Meanwhile, Diddy's victims who had endured manipulation and abuse throughout the ordeal were left unprotected. They lost their voices, were deprived of their rights, and received no acknowledgement from the public or the legal system. Despite facing significant hardship and pain in speaking out, the ultimate result was silence. Diddy's release not only represented an injustice to the victims, but also raised the question of whether the powerful can continue to manipulate the legal system and society. The image of Diddy walking out of the courthouse laughing and chatting with his family and legal team is in stark contrast to the suffering his victims endured. This clearly shows the differential treatment between those with power and those without a voice. And as public outrage continues to swell, the question of fairness in the legal system becomes clearer than ever. The power and manipulation of Diddy in the case. Diddy's case was not just a legal battle between the involved parties, but a confrontation between power and justice. With an estimated fortune of hundreds of millions of dollars in worldwide fame, Diddy is not just a music star, but also a producer, entrepreneur, and representative of major brands. His financial power and influence in the entertainment industry became a central factor in analyzing how his case was handled. Diddy is not just an artist, but a highly influential figure in the global music and entertainment industry. He is the founder and operator of several major music companies and has collaborated with a long list of famous artists. With his ability to manage major brands and amass a huge fortune, Diddy possesses not only financial power but also the ability to connect with influential people across various fields, including politics, society, and media. These connections have allowed him to build a strong support network, creating an influence that cannot be ignored. In this case, it is undeniable that power in the music industry provided Diddy with significant advantages. When Diddy was accused of committing crimes, his fame and relationships with powerful figures in the entertainment industry somewhat influenced public perception of the case. Did Diddy's fame and fortune make the public in the legal system view the case more lightly? His connections with major figures in the music industry who have global influence raise concerns about the fairness of this trial. Diddy not only has power in the entertainment industry, but he is also a savvy businessman with strong financial relations. These relationships have helped him not only maintain his power, but also secure support from key partners. In fact, part of the power that Diddy holds comes from his ability to build relationships with powerful figures, including tycoons, politicians, and leaders in other fields. This network may have played a key role in lessening his sentence in the case. And the major issue that the public faces when following this case is whether Diddy can use his wealth and relationships to ensure his protection. Diddy's lawyers quickly built a strong legal strategy, from selecting top experts in law to linking with influential partners to apply pressure on the court. Did Diddy's financial power influence the outcome of the case? Could the light sentences be explained by the political and business relationships that Diddy had cultivated over the years? Moreover, the event of Diddy being released after the trial led many to suspect the involvement of powerful forces. Were officials influenced by Diddy's wealth and influence in the entertainment industry? This manipulation not only existed in behind-the-scenes negotiations, but was also evident in the way Diddy was treated differently from other defendants in similar cases. In addition to his financial power and political connections, Diddy also has the ability to manipulate public opinion and even the trial process. His fame helped Diddy easily guide public perception of the case in his favor. His image as a creative, talented businessman and cultural icon was maximized by media companies to soften the severe accusations against him. However, Diddy's display during the trial after the verdict was also a clear sign of his power in front of the public. His actions, embracing his lawyers, raising his fist in satisfaction, and smiling smugly as he walked out of the courtroom, were not just the actions of a winner in a trial, but also a way to assert his personal power. This gesture raised the question of whether Diddy truly felt guilty for what he had done, or if he was simply showing his disregard for justice and his own protection. To many, this scene was not just Diddy's smugness, but also a form of contempt toward the victims and those who had fought for justice throughout the investigation. Was Diddy saying that he had won and everything was just
and no longer has a voice who will pursue justice for her accusation?
Became clearer when looking
As
at
of the
this
taken
action.
against
The
Diddy,
case has
no
led the
expansion
public
of the
to question the
investigation,
fairness of the
no
legal
isolation
system. If Diddy
orders,
can use his
no
power
equipment
and wealth to
access,
protect himself,
no suspension
can
of
others,
attorney
those without the
communication.
resources to
Everything
navigate the
inside
legal
solitary
system
block C
receive fair
continued as
protection?
before.
The public's response
Everything
with clear
except the
outrage
fear.
is a strong
If a
reflection
female
of the
warden can
discontent
vanish
about
after
how
a single
financial power
nothing
can
except
affect
the
fairness
fear.
in legal
If a
judgments,
female
the
warden
question
can
the public
vanish after a
asks is
single
whether
note,
justice is
ones who
truly
once
served
worked
in a
overnight
society
in that
where
area,
financial power
the
can
ones who
change the
filed for
outcome of
leave
a
without
serious
giving a
case. Is
reason,
the legal
the ones
system
who
strong
saw but
enough
never
to resist
spoke.
manipulation
No one
by
mentions the
powerful
note,
individuals
but
like
everyone
Diddy?
knows
These are
it
important
appeared.
questions that
And
not
if what
only
it says
those
is
following the
true,
case,
then
but
punishment.
society as a whole
Part
must
3.
answer.
The person no longer in the system. The internal personnel database
database
of the Atlanta Federal Detention Center updated its weekly roster. Under the category Special Personnel Code Adjustment, the name of Warden TD was marked as removed from system by administrative order. There was no decision number recorded. It was deactivated. Her personal contact information disappeared from the internal network exactly 36 hours after she filed her complaint. The changelog was executed from the system's highest access level server, a device bearing the identifier DCCA1, located in the coordination office on the 4th floor of the Security Administration Wing. Only 2 individuals possess the authority to perform a system-level personnel removal at that tier, the head of Federal Human Resources and the Detention Center. No confirmation exists as the patient was made. The removal of Warden TD's name was not accompanied by any or protective reassignment. At 11:20 a.m., a printed copy of the personnel deployment chart was generated in preparation for the new week's schedule. Under the section marked Internal Alert, TD's name
exuded smugness and a sense of victory, as if everything was just a power game. This only deepened the frustration and pain of the public, particularly sexual assault victims who could not accept that people like Diddy could escape punishment simply because they had money and power. The overly lenient treatment of Diddy forced victims to confront the feeling of abandonment and lack of protection in a society they had trusted. The outrage was not only confined to posts on forums or social media, but also spread beyond women's rights organizations. People from all walks of life began to speak out, criticizing the legal system and the injustices in handling the case. Posts and videos about Diddy's case on social media garnered millions of views, and most of them expressed frustration and demanded justice for the victim. Hashtags like share justice for the victims, #TreeDiddy, and #justice_denied quickly spread, reflecting the divide in public opinion. A quick survey conducted by social research organizations found that the majority of respondents believed Diddy had used his power to escape serious charges. They argued that the sentence Diddy received was a prime example of the legal system's failure to protect the vulnerable, and that only those with money and power could escape their crime. Concerns about Diddy's manipulation of power in the case spread throughout society, especially as his victims, who had faced violence and manipulation, were not heard or given justice. The scene in the leaked video not only fueled the outrage, but also highlighted the difference between those with power and those without a voice. The video with Diddy walking out of the courthouse with a smug smile not only made the public angry, but also evoked the pain of the victim. To them, this image felt like a statement that they were not valued, that their suffering was just a small part of the power game played by people like Diddy. The victims, despite their efforts to speak out during the investigation and trial, did not receive the recognition or protection they deserved. When Diddy walked out of the courtroom raising his fist in victory, they felt abandoned, not just by the legal system, but also by society, where the power of someone like Diddy could change the outcome of a serious case. This leaked clip, though only a few seconds long, had a powerful impact on the public's psyche. It not only exposed the injustice in the legal system, but also highlighted the helplessness of the victims in seeking justice. Will they continue to face silence and irreparable trauma while the perpetrators enjoy their freedom and glory in the eyes of the public? This leaked clip was not just evidence of injustice, but also a sign that power can alter important judicial decisions. Right after the clip went viral, and posts criticizing the case began flooding social media, women's rights organizations and the LGBT+ community organized protests demanding a reinvestigation into the case. These protests attracted thousands of participants, including many celebrities who spoke out calling for justice for the victims in the case. They demanded not only that Diddy face responsibility for his actions, but also that the legal system change to ensure that everyone, regardless of their power, is held accountable for their actions. Although the protests could not change the outcome of the case, they sparked an important discussion about how the legal system handles cases involving power and money. People believed that change was necessary to protect the vulnerable and prevent those with power from continuing to manipulate justice. The future of Diddy and Diddy's case, despite ending with a light sentence and his smug exit from the courtroom, leaves behind a host of questions about justice, power, and fairness in society. Although he has avoided the most serious charges, Diddy cannot escape the long-term consequences of this case, and public dissatisfaction with the trial may continue to linger. At the same time, Diddy's victims, who have suffered not only physical violence but also emotional manipulation for a long period, still face irreplaceable trauma. They are the ones left behind. In a case where justice seems to have been swayed by power and money, after being acquitted and released, Diddy may continue to enjoy his life without facing serious legal consequences. However, that does not mean he will avoid significant challenges in the future. While the legal system may have been lenient with him, public opinion will not be so easily forgiven. Diddy will have to contend with a wave of criticism from the public and the media, who cannot accept that power and wealth allowed him to escape such serious crimes. One of Diddy's greatest challenges will be the collapse of his public image. With the lenient verdict, the public will not easily forget the allegations he faced. Diddy may spend the rest of his career trying to rebuild his image, which will be difficult, as the scandal has deeply damaged the trust of fans in the community in the entertainment industry, where image and reputation are everything. Diddy will need to find ways to regain public trust if he doesn't want to see his career fade into obscurity. To do this, Diddy may need to change how he operates, possibly even separating himself from the brands and partners that have been tied to him throughout his career. Companies Diddy owns or collaborates with may face a decline in brand value if they continue to associate with him. Losing support from partners, customers, and the community is inevitable unless Diddy makes strategic moves to rehabilitate his reputation. One of the measures Diddy could take is to rebuild his personal image through community involvement or a new media strategy. However, this poses a major issue even if he can start over. Will the public truly forgive the actions of his past? Will he be able to overcome the skepticism and criticism from those who were once his loyal fans? Diddy may need to change not only his professional approach, but also his attitude toward life. While he showed smugness after being acquitted, if he genuinely wants to recover and continue to succeed, he will need to find a way to show humility and be willing to face the consequences of his past actions rather than merely continuing to assert his power and influence. Diddy has escaped serious charges, but has justice truly been served? Public reaction and dissatisfaction with the verdict still have not ceased. Will Diddy face the consequences of his past actions, or will he continue to live under the protection of power? Leave your thoughts, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe to stay updated on our next analysis video.